Welcome to the Young at War show. Today's is November 25th, 2014. And I'm Maxie, your host. Today I have one of my very good friends, a brother from another mother. His name is Abel. He is a waiter, and today's topic is the IRS law on the waiters and their tips. Okay? Now, today, we're going to talk about Young at War. Young at War, as you already know, is a very, very, very big show that's going to be up and coming in the world. Young at War is something that I want to do to help the youth as well as adults, just so that we could go ahead and express ourselves. Young at War show. In expressionism with art, music, lyrics, poems, whatever we can do. Here's Abel.
Hello.
Hi, Abel. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing great. Enjoying my day off.
I bet. I had to work today all day. I actually just came from work. It was horrible. Either way, Abel, so tell us a little bit about yourself and your job.
Well, I work at the Grand X Cafe in Aventura Mall, and it's a corporate company related to the Cheesecake Factory. And I mean, last time this year, I was doing like about $2,000 a month. But because of the bill that the IRS passed about non-gratuity, now I'm making like $1,200 a month, and it's really taking effect on me. And I can't imagine like people that have big families and mortgages and like other big bills to pay.
Yeah, it's true. I know a lot of people that actually depend off of their tips only.
Of course.
Yeah.
We get paid like $4.75 an hour. That does, like every 2 weeks it comes out to like $89. That's nothing.
And is that minimum wage for waiters, or is that like what you get paid yourself?
No, that's the minimum wage for all waiters, like the average minimum wage. And then we declare our tips, and then so when we declare our tips, the taxes get taken off of the hourly wage as well too. So the IRS pretty much said like either we add gratuity to every check and make it taxable and receive our tips through our checks, or we just don't add gratuity to any checks and then we.
No, when they do that, because sometimes like I'll go to a restaurant and I'll pay the gratuity on the check because it's already added on. I'll still leave like $5, $6 depending on how much my bill was. Does that happen? And do you have to report that too?
Well, we don't add gratuity anymore to any checks as of January. But yeah, when we used to, in a party of 6 or more, we would add gratuity. And then if they wanted to add an additional gratuity, it was up to them. But now we'll have a party of like 15 people and the bill will be like maybe $500, and we're lucky if we get tipped like $30, $40.
With no gratuity added on the check?
With no gratuity added on the check. So this is just depending on the people's grace.
And what's gonna happen in January?
Well, a couple of small like privately owned businesses have gotten away with adding gratuity to a check. They're calling it like a service charge. And I mean, you find them mostly like in South Beach and in the downtown area. And that's because they're privately owned. So corporate companies have, because to avoid like trouble with the IRS, they've, since January, they've been non-adding gratuity. But come January, like all establishments like will not even get away with a service charge.
That's horrible.
Yeah, like I have bills to pay.
Yeah. Now going from $2,000 to $1,200, that's a lot of money, and you still have the same amount of bills. I'm pretty sure that when you made that $2,000 a month, right? A month.
Yeah.
That's probably the same thing that I make, not including my commission. Now I imagine that if I was to get docked on my commission, I would be really mad. I would be really mad. And there's something that you could really do about that now because that's the IRS. And to go through with stopping that or sending in some documents or sending a letter to them, it's gonna take a long time, and they're gonna probably ignore you.
Yeah, I mean, people have signed petitions, and it's really up to the government just wanting to add their own taxes to all sorts of money they could find.
Yeah, that's basically what they're doing. They're taking over.
Slowly but surely.
Slowly but surely. Well, thank you for that type of kind of interview. Up next, we have the song of the day as well as the poem of the day. I actually have 2 songs of the day. One is one of my favorite songs, is actually new, and one is a very old song that I love. So stay tuned for that. And we're back. That song of the day was for my radio listeners. And for my YouTube watchers, that song of the day was called Kendrick Lamar. It's called I, parentheses, love myself. That song is just one of my favorite songs, not only because it talks about what's going on in the world now, but it also talks about how what's going on in the world, you should still love yourself and appreciate yourself for who you are. The world really takes a toll on you. And that's why my show is called Young at War, because we're young in this world. In this life we call war, right? That song, I Love Myself, is one of the best songs that is out right now. Not only because Kendrick Lamar is a rapper, but also because I think that he's one of the best rappers out there. He's something like Lupe Fiasco, or he's something like Immortal Technique, somebody rare. He's rare to me because he raps not about money, clothes, and cars, and having a whole bunch of girls on his, you know what? But he talks about real stuff that's going on nowadays. And I don't know if you like rap, Abel, but have you heard that song, I Love Myself?
I did actually. It has a funky beat to it.
It does.
I think it sends a good message, as opposed to all the media that's out there. The media is controlled by the government.
Yes.
It's all like a brainwash, I think.
Well, I don't think that it's a brainwash. I think that the rappers that are out nowadays, they're brainwashed themselves. And most of them that are mainstream are paid by like major corporations and major record labels. They signed their soul to the devil. And did you see the BET Awards? I'm sure you didn't. Well, in the BET Awards, what's his name? Well, our old school rapper, he was saying how all the young rappers nowadays, they want to sell their souls to the devil for all of the finer things.
For the fortune and fame.
Exactly, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. And I think that Kendrick Lamar is one of the best ones out there because he'll come out to the show with a white tee. And he's just so cool like that. And he just won't forget where he comes from. Just like I won't forget where I come from, no matter where I go in life. So that's why I like him. And that's why I like that song. Another thing I want to talk about is talking about how what's going on in the world today. The Ferguson case. Now, yesterday, what happened was that the officer, Darrell Wilson, didn't get indicted. Nothing happened to him. He was 130 something feet away from Mike Brown when he shot Mike Brown, and Mike had his hands in the air. All right, that there's like a bunch of witnesses going back and forth with their stories, and all of the evidence basically is why he didn't get indicted if nothing happened to him. I don't think that's fine. I think that something at least should have happened to him. And every time that I hear a story like that, it just gives me goosebumps because the same thing happened with
Trayvon Martin.
With Trayvon Martin.
Well, I mean, I agree that of course there's like 30 police officers and corrupt officers everywhere, but like there's really no proof. It's one dead man's word against a live man's word. And the officer was stating that he was defending himself because Mike hit him or whatever.
He went into the car.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I think all this is just like, I think the jury ruled like that, no indictment, as a part to like, consume all of the media and distract others of what's really going on out there, because people are obviously going to riot and protest against a case like this because it's been happening so recently. The Trayvon Martin really set off like a trend where people are now protesting more than they used to. And I mean, yeah, they're not protesting in the legal and healthy manner, but
they have to do what they have to do in order for somebody to hear them.
I just don't think that the whole riot is like caused by the protesters. I think the police have amped it up, and they're using, like, the government's probably using this to, I mean, like when the Trayvon Martin when the Trayvon Martin case was going on, like they passed the bill of law of the gun controls, and nobody really knew because they were so distracted with everything that was going on with Trayvon Martin. Now, black kids are dying, black, white, Asian, doesn't matter, Latino, they're getting shot every day, but nobody's really reporting it. But they take a case like this, and these type of cases, when they're so like publicified,
Mm-hmm.
they make a lot of money, not only for the media, but for magazines, for newspaper, for everything. So,
Yeah, something's always going on, something tragic. Like this has to happen in order for the media or the government to pass another type of law
of
and for them
course.
to make money. I agree with that. You're
Yeah.
so right.
So I just think people need to stop focusing on this whole case. Like, it happened. There's not really much that can be done about it.
Right. To me, it's not mostly about the case. It's mostly about what's going on in that particular town. Imagine if that would go on here in Miami.
Well, it does go on here in Miami. I spoke to my lawyer yesterday, and he actually told me we were talking about one of my cases, and he told me that the South Beach Police Department is really like one of the most dirtiest police departments in South Florida, and like there's all these cases against them, and it's gonna happen because they're hiring criminals as officers. The criminals are becoming snitches and wearing a badge, and they're instead of taking honorable, like the real
Like
honest
doing your real duty.
men and women that are trying to become officers, they're putting them like on a waiting list
Hmm.
because they're using the criminals.
To do the job that these people could do.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're so right. I actually don't think about that type of stuff because that type of stuff is not. I don't want to say it's not important to me because it is, but it's just not something that I'm really in tune with.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would agree because you haven't really been placed in that situation. When I was arrested, I remember the police officer in South Beach just being really discriminatory, and even when I tried to like record everything on my phone, that's when he got like even more aggressive.
And you're allowed to.
Yeah, I know. And so what was he trying to hide? But clearly, I'm a drunk guy and he's a police officer, so it's gonna be my word against his.
You know what I don't like? I don't want to say every single officer does this, but probably 70% of them will take their power and just amp it up just because you're an officer.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean anything at all. And most of them, like the other day I was at work and I was talking to an officer on the phone. And he's retired. He's been retired for like 10 years. And I do student loans. I do student loans, guys. So if you guys want to get your student loans forgiven, call me at the Student Aid Center in Doral. So I was talking to an officer, and he's been retired for like 10 years. And this man was literally saying, I was an officer, and I was a deputy, and I was the force. So you can't talk to me. Excuse me. I'm doing my job here. You can't talk to me that way because I'm telling you what you need to do with your student loans. I'm not going to help you if you don't want to get help. I'm just here to help you regardless. You don't got to talk to me a certain way. So he hung up on me.
That happens at my job too. Like these amateur police officers come in, the restaurant could be busy, we're on a wait, and they expect to be sat right away. Like, I don't care if you're wearing a badge. Like, I'm gonna treat you like a regular civilian. If I'm not under arrest, then you're nobody to me.
True. And if I am under arrest, you better tell me why.
I have a lot of police friends, and the ones that I do get along with, like they're real honest police officers, and even they have admitted that they've worked with a lot of corrupt officers.
Mm-hmm. It sucks.
It's just about people are not aware of their rights. People are not like educating themselves, and that's why the police officers are getting away with it because people exercise their rights, their civil rights. Then,
do you think that what happened in Ferguson and what happened with Trayvon Martin? Because Trayvon Martin, the guy was just a security guard, George Zimmerman.
Yeah.
Do you think that what happened was because they were defending themselves? Because both of them were defending themselves by evidence, right? Do you think that by them defending themselves, they were just defending themselves, or that Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown were defending themselves, and then these guys went, they took it overboard? What do you think? Because it could go either way. Like you said earlier, it's a dead man's word over the officer.
I think it all could have been staged.
How could it be staged if this is a kid that literally grew up in a small town in Ferguson?
Yeah, well, I mean, either the police officer picked a fight with him, but I think, like, why would a kid like that, if he's so innocent as people are saying it, like, it just doesn't add up.
They said he stole a box of Swiss sweets.
It doesn't make sense, though.
It's messed up. It's really messed up.
The government wouldn't care to lose one police officer. Suppose it would have been the other way around. Mike would have ended up killing the police officer. So that's one failed attempt by by the government. Like, they'll lose one police officer, but how many more do they have in line waiting to do the same job, waiting to kill an innocent Black young man?
That sucks. It's difficult. It could go either way, and people have different mindsets about it. I just think that the riots and everything that's going on. It was going on while President Obama was talking about the riots, like, oh, you don't have to go and talk or do certain things. Like, while you were talking, Mr. President, people were doing this and they were not listening to you because you went on after the indictment. After the indictment went on,
Well, don't get
he
me
should have
started. Don't get
talked
me started on
before.
what I think about Obama. But point is, I don't think he's doing everything in his power to avoid this because they're saying that at least 20 establishments were burned down.
Oh, I heard that 12 or 12 does 1 dozen.
You see,
12,
like,
12.
how do they get away with it? Like, the police have to be either in on it or doing it. Like, you don't just nowadays in 2014, you don't just start a fire. You don't just like break into places and rob and get away with it. Like, I'm surprised people are still breaking into banks and robbing banks like at gunpoint.
Well, all the technology is going on nowadays,
I
right?
thought that only happened like in the Midwest.
Nah, like seriously, I think that
You know, like
it's really
I'm
crazy
being
now.
treated as a criminal for something so insignificant. And you know,
That's
when
for sure.
there's real criminals like going on, like
Yeah. Well, sometimes, like I was saying earlier, I think about stuff and I just don't know like how or to like how my mind is gonna go about it because I just don't think about these type of things. Like I don't know how people like do riots. I can't even picture myself in a riot.
well, I would love to be a part of a protest sometime, but not something that's violent like that.
I would so run. I would go home. I would go home. I would not.
I would rather defend like animals or something or a tree.
Right. Well, that was our talk about Ferguson and our mindset about that. It's really crazy. We could go on for days about this, and trust me, we could. Up next, we have another song of the day and the poem of the day. Stay tuned. Thank you for tuning into that song. That was Al Natural by Sweetback. That song there is like the beginning of, I want to say, funky hip hop. That song right there was funky hip hop. That song there is so cool, and I love it because it's talking about how I am still me and I come from where I come from. I'm all natural with my type of flow. And I think I have my own type of flow. Um, I like to be who I am. I like to be bubbly. And Abel, you know that.
Yeah, of
I have my
course.
own personality.
On swag.
I have my own swag. And you have your own swag. And that's why I
I
like
like to
you.
think so.
Yeah, I don't really like, I don't say I don't like, but I would prefer all of my friends, which I have like 3 or 4 only. I would prefer all of my friends to have their own stilo because if I think that if I have like a friend that's a follower or like somebody that wants to be just like everybody else, I won't like that about you because it just says you're not yourself. You're not.
You know, it's funny you say that because I was getting a tattoo today. My tattoo artist was playing jazz, and I was just like, "Oh, who's this? Like, it sounds really dope." And he was like, "Oh, you like jazz?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, you know, like I was gonna go to a jazz event last night." And he's like, "Man, how old are you?" I was like, "I'm 22." And he was like, "You know, young kids nowadays." He's like, "I don't mean to call you a kid, but young people your age nowadays, they would never listen to jazz because it's boring or classical music."
Not at all. I love
And
jazz.
I told him, I was like, you know, well, like I try to teach my little nieces like about like cultural music. Like
Yep.
that's what it is. Culture.
Yep.
It's where everything originates from.
Yep. And that's why I like you, because if you notice these two songs that I played today, Kendrick Lamar I and Al Natural, nobody that is our age would even listen to that song.
They
Like
really
I know
wouldn't.
people that ask me, "Oh, who's this artist?" And I'll just be like, "Well, how don't you know this artist?"
I was in the car with my friend the other day, and I played a Paula Abdul, and she didn't even know that Paula Abdul sang.
What does she think, that she was this American Idol for no reason?
And that's not even like that old. So
that's the thing. Like I don't really like how people our age are not in tune with culture that our parents did. Like I was talking about that in my last show. My mom, you know, she is she raised me herself, and she taught me a lot. I think that some parents need to teach their children what's up. Like talk to your children about how life was like growing up.
yeah. Nowadays, parents are they're more acceptable to hiring a nanny and working full-time jobs and being home when they're home, and that's it. It's easier to just get a nanny than put into work.
That sucks. I don't think that. I don't know, because sometimes nannies could probably teach children some things that the parents can't teach.
I agree. I mean, we have a nanny at our house besides us, but
And what does she do?
well, I mean, she just cooks and cleans, but like like she talks to Spanish, and that's good because that means that my nieces, when they're home, they have
talk
to talk
Spanish only.
Yeah, you can't forget where you come from, which is
Right.
what that song is about.
That's true. It's true. Al
It's
Natural is a
roots.
great song. Like whoever people on YouTube, you cannot hear that song, but go YouTube it. Al Natural by Sweetback. AUNATURAL. Al Natural.
What's that spell?
Al Natural. Yes. 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 So Google that song, and if you don't love it, that means you have no style, no flow, you have no stilo.
No estilo.
And you don't like my music. And people who like my music are cool. Yes. 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 So that's that song. And Kendrick Lamar, that song too. You have to know where you come from. And he comes from Compton. And coming from Compton, you have to like remember where you come from. Like I just love him so much because he's one person that has been through so much and still finds a way to be happy. You know, finds a way to just motivate himself to be a better person than he was yesterday. And that's something amazing.
Well, you got to, like, no matter what it is you're going through, you gotta put your best face forward.
Yep. Yep.
Gotta handle it with poise.
You gotta handle it with poise. Hear that? So up next, I had the poem of the day. Let me look for it. The poem of the day is something that I wrote. I don't even know how long ago I wrote it. I just know that I was like tipsy, I was drunk, and I was stressing. So I don't really have a name for it. You guys could, put a name for it yourself on the comments, or, how about this? You guys find a name for it yourself, and then I'll choose the best name. If you guys don't do it, then I'll choose the name myself regardless. Yeah, but here it goes. Drunk, I'm just laughing. Drunk off this wine, I got too much on my mind. My mom's stressing the bills. I want to leave all this shit behind. Me, I know the world is in a crisis. Honestly, I don't think I might see my great-grandchildren like my ancestors did. Oh, I see. This is life how I see. Step, 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 step into my shoes and realize it ain't just me. Me. I realize we're living like savages in a world where high school students don't know how to add their averages. My whole life been living in the same community, but I ain't mad at the world. I know we can live up to ours. Ours. The same as you and him or me and my family. Shit, but it ain't like that. Nowadays, we fight like cats and tell like rats. Me. I know no better than the next, but best believe I plan to be on one. One or two, just like you do. Maybe three or four. Am I talking about your mentality? It runs so deep. Maybe one day we will see ourselves out of poverty. We got to strive and survive I know that life is indeed greener on the other side. Me, just being a little optimistic because the world we live in, it can be realistic. My mentality flows free like the same blood that we all need when we need. You need a fix, she need a purse, we need a goal. We been through some shit and did some other shit to get by. So I realize that life is not easy and some rules you just have to live by.
By yours truly.
By yours truly. Yes. That was my poem. I don't even know when I wrote that. Let me see if I could find out when I wrote that. But what do you think about that poem?
I like it. It kind of makes me reflect on everything that's going on, and it's just like all you could do is really like give it your best shot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like whether it's bills or court or kids or school or work. You know, there's always gonna be some stress, and like there's better ways to deal with it than you know.
Then, because I basically, this poem is just how I see life. We got to do some stuff to get by. We got to do whatever we got to do to get by. And when I say that, it's because I gotta work to get by. I've never been the type to be in the street. I've never been the type to go hustle in the street or to do this and that. I know a million girls and they're my friends. I have family members that have to do what they have to do to get by. You know, whether it be in the street or go to work. And just that's just how it is in Miami. It is.
I don't knock anybody for their hustle, whatever it may be. But I mean, there's ways to go about it. And like fast money never really lasts, like hard worked money. And I think I've lived it and learned it personally. And
I agree. I agree. I think that the only reason you're saying that is because people that like fast money, they're usually not smart about it. They usually do it to get by really quickly,
yeah.
but they never save their money.
You know, I would always want to be rich, but now that like, you know, money's good and everything, I'm happy just getting by. Like, I don't know if it sounds wrong, but like I'm not
Well,
really worried about the future. As long as like my bills are paid now and I'm
yeah,
eating now, then
yeah,
I'm kind of good.
I feel you.
I'm stress free in that sense. I'm
That's
not.
funny because I remember probably a couple years ago how you were, I don't want to say struggling, but you were really, it was really difficult to get by. And every dollar that you had, it was like, well, this is going into my savings. And I don't care
Yeah.
what you say. I don't care what you say. This money is only for chilling and going out. And this money is for my savings. And now you're just like, well, I could do whatever I can because I already got my bills paid. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it feels great, and it feels even better having earned that money honestly.
Hmm. And you do earn it, waiter or not.
Hmm.
Now, with that being said, I have a few reasons why. Hold on. I have a few reasons why. Okay, it says here 6 ways to make more money as a waiter or waitress.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm gonna read this to you. I'll just read you some of it, and then you tell me what you think about that. Okay.
Okay.
Now, for those of you at home watching YouTube, and that are waiters and waitresses, tune in, and then you guys can also comment and let me know if you guys like this tip or because if you guys don't like the tip, because this is an article written by uh, Gideon Grudo, and he's a guest blogger on the Christian Science Monitor. You can go ahead and Google that, Christian Science Monitor, and Google Gideon Grudo. So he says the 6 ways to make more money as a waiter or waitress. Number 1, focus on your tips. When you focus on your tips, you forget about the hourly peanuts that you make. You keep track of your tips, and you're responsible with the cash that you get every day. Do you think that that's like a liable tip, or do you think that people should just focus on the work that they do, and then that comes with the tips?
I mean, look, at the end of the day, everyone's out there to make money, and when I go to work, all I know is every shift I work, I have to make minimum $100. So I'm like constantly looking at my tips, but like at the same time, I'd rather focus more on the service that I provide, because when I provide good service, the tip will just come flowing in. You know, like I may have a table that'll stiff me, but then the next table, because I provide them that really good hospitable service and I make them feel at home, they're gonna tip me what I deserve and then some. That'll make up for the table before. So I mean, yeah, you could focus on the money, but like the money comes naturally.
Right. Have there ever been a time where, okay, like you just said, you focus on your tips, you look at your tips probably every hour, every 2 hours, and if you're not at the budget that you want, then you go ahead and you probably
Well, yeah, like if I see it's towards the ending of my shift and I don't have those $100 minimum that I require myself to make, like I'm gonna become a shark. I'm gonna steal tables. I'm gonna like put a little pip in my. I'm gonna put a little pip in my step, and I'm gonna hustle. And I'm gonna do what I gotta do because I gotta leave with at least $100. I have to tip out. So
Oh, you have to tip out?
yeah, I have to tip out.
Who? The bartenders?
Bartenders, busters, food runners.
Mm, that
Like,
sucks.
next tip.
Okay. So the next tip is work long hours the right way. When he says work long hours the right way, is because you have since employers are forced to by law to pay you at least 150% of your hourly when you work more than 40 hours a week. Most of them keep you from doing so. In the restaurant business, this translates to keeping you from picking up too many shifts or sending you home in the middle of the shift. And he's had both of those happen to him.
Yeah. Like in the restaurant business, they don't want us to work overtime because, overtime requires more pay. But yeah, I mean, like if you know you're in a section and you're not gonna get a table for like an hour, don't clock in. You're wasting your hours. You could save up your hours so you're able to pick up shifts. Like,
so it doesn't matter how many hours you work in a day. If you have all those hours, you could work them in a week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, like some people stay extra, like, or they'll just like dilly dally and not clock out when they're supposed to. And it's like, I'm trying to clock out as soon as I can, even if I'm still in the restaurant. Like, even though I'm doing paperwork, it doesn't interest me to stay clocked in at $4.75 a rate when I could save that hour and eventually it adds up. So when I try to pick up a shift, like that's more money than the $4.75 that I would have stayed if I would have clocked in just because I'm doing my paperwork. So yeah, like clock in as soon as you get your first table, clock out as soon as you get your last table, and your side work and your paperwork, you get it done efficiently and you're out of there.
Cool. Now, let's see. The third tip is get insured one way or the other. So when he says that, it says, at my last job, we got a few minutes of vacation vacation pay for every week we worked more than 25 hours. After 4 years there, I had accrued just a few days. Okay. Now, according to the FCWA report, of those surveyed, 79% don't have sick paid leave or don't know if they do. 83% don't get health insurance. 58% don't have health care at all. 53% worked while they were sick. And 35% have used the emergency room as their primary care. Now, with that being said, do you have health insurance for your job?
I don't. I have a private health insurance. But if I didn't, yeah, I would get it with my job because truth is, like, you need health insurance.
True. Does your job offer health insurance?
It does, and it's a very good health insurance.
What health insurance do they have?
I think a Vista or something like that.
Oh, I've never heard of that one. That's cool.
Well, something there.
Okay. Now, tip number 4. It benefits. Oh, it's called move on up. You want to move on up, right?
Yeah.
And I know that you're trying to do that, even if it's in your restaurant or moving up in the industry. Regardless, move on up. 81% of waiters and waitresses never received a promotion. 75% never had an opportunity to apply for a promotion. That's horrible. 75%. 74% had no ongoing training from their employer, and 32% received no training at all after their first day, which sucks. And that 32% probably is because they're probably veterans.
Yeah. At my job, every 6 months we change the menu, so there's constant training going on.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, and I would guess because I work for a corporate company, like there's a lot of opportunities to move up. But like you have to want it. Like even if it's a mom and pops type of place, if you want to become that like head bartender,
Mm-hmm.
you need to work for it. You need to show them that that you deserve the position. So I think move on up means like, you work hard, you do what you got to do, and they'll eventually notice it. Like, I used to complain about them not wanting to cross train me in my job, but eventually, like, I did, and sure enough, like, I think they realized that it was a good move on their part.
Now, when you do bartend at your job, because I know you bartend sometimes too, do you get tips? And does the tip include the gratuity already added on to the
No,
bill, or how does that work with
no.
bartenders?
Even for bartenders, it's the same law. Nobody's allowed to add gratuity to any check.
And that's only in your restaurant.
Yeah, and there'll be like one bartender with 18 seats in front of them. Meanwhile, they're still responsible for making the drinks for all the tables.
Oh,
So,
so okay, is it a law for one bartender to have because I guess that it's easy for them to do it if they're veterans, but is it a law for them to have like a backup or like a backup person or whatever it's called?
well, it goes by like their guest of sales. Like if their sales are supposed to be like suppose 14,000, then obviously they're gonna have more staff there. They won't just have one bartender. But if it looks like if the projection shows that it's gonna be a slow day or slow night,
Then he'll just be there alone.
and that's how the managers know how to like
Okay.
staff for the day.
Okay, cool. So, tip number 5 on how to make more money as a waiter or waitress: take your breaks responsibly. How many breaks do you take when you work?
I don't take breaks ever. Like even if I work doubles, like I'm sorry, but I'm in there to make money. I'm not in there to take a break. Like, like this past weekend, I worked a double Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and in those 3 days alone, I made $530.
In those 3 days?
Yeah,
That's cool.
if
And that was in tips?
Yeah,
Okay.
That's all cash.
And then that's not including what they're going to give you in your check. Do you get paid weekly?
I get paid bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly.
And I could have, I was scheduled doubles. It's not like I picked it up. I could have easily requested a break, but I'm in there to make money. Like,
yeah. Do you think that what percentage of waiters and waitresses do you think are on your mentality? Because I know that some, they work like in bullshit restaurants, and then they're just like there to make tips only. And they don't really work for it. Are there people like that in your restaurant?
Yeah,
or?
they treat the restaurant as an ATM. Get in, get money, get out. And I mean, I'm all for that, but like, you have to care about your job and about what you do. You have to take pride in everything you do. And me, I'm a really prideful person. So like how I present myself to my guests says a lot about myself. Like I have my regulars, and now I'm working at the front desk. Like I'm the first face that they see, the first interaction that they have.
I would love that, because you're just such a nice person to look at. And I think that you're very what is the word? Grateful? Like you're very nice to greet people.
Yeah, I'm approachable.
Approachable.
Yeah, like.
Do you like that, or do you request to be there?
I love it. Like I don't know. I have fun at work. Like meeting new people, talking to new people. I like to please others. So for me, just giving somebody a nice experience is enough.
That's nice. And when people leave, do they leave? Do they leave and come in through the same entrance?
Not all the time. There's different entrances.
Do people ever come back to say bye to you?
Yeah.
Really?
And even if they don't, I say bye really loud.
You would.
Especially if it's a cutie.
I bet. Now, another one is be safe. This is the last one. It says be safe. According to the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, 4,960 workers died on the job in 2010.
Oh wow,
that's crazy. While serving food is a low risk job, you can get hurt.
Yeah.
Now, I just read died. I'm not even talking about like workers' comp. You can't even get workers' comp if you're dead. How did almost 5,000 people die on the job? Have you ever been in a situation like that, or has you ever heard about that? People dying on the job?
Well, for one, when you're clocked in, you're not allowed to leave, because anything that happens to you off premises while you're clocked in is not their responsibility.
I can see that.
Something simple as cutting bread. Like, they tell you if you don't have a cutting glove, do not cut bread. I do it all the time, but I understand that if I cut my finger off, that's my responsibility, because I know I'm not supposed to.
Well, you got workers' comp if that happens?
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Just
Just
because
like
they
just
have
like
to.
if you slip and fall and you're not wearing slip resistant shoes, that's your fault. You're not eligible for workers' comp.
Do you wear slip
Yeah,
resistant shoes?
of course.
What shoes do you wear? The
Because if I
Crocs?
slip and because if I slip and fall, like I'm suing.
Now I'm gonna be the owner
Yep.
of
I ain't gotta work no more.
of this restaurant. Now, on the survey, it says that 57.2 suffered injury on a health problem on the job. 52% did not receive health and safety training from their employer, which sucks. That's like half percent of the people. 32.7% did not receive proper equipment due to the job. Well, they probably told you to buy it. And 11.7% did something that put their own safety at risk.
Yeah.
Now that sucks because I think that when it comes to that, you could just basically have all of those factors and say that they're all your fault.
Well,
Because
I
you could
had
have clearly asked for training. You could have clearly said, I need this. You could have clearly said,
I had a
whatever.
coworker who had a limp, a really bad limp because of a leg, whatever crisis that she had. And, like she wanted to get back to serving and, like eventually she couldn't keep up. She couldn't do her side work. She couldn't bend down. Well, the health issues you have. If you know that you can't really run around or stand on your feet for such a long time, like, why you take on the job? That's what I mean. Like it's their responsibility.
I guess you're right, actually.
Yeah.
Wow. Now another article that I have is somebody I don't know if this person is either ignorant or just too smart for their own good. You could tell me. This person says 9 reasons why we should abolish tipping once and for all.
I don't even want to hear about it.
Now, with that being said, the first one it says it pushes waiters into poverty and helps keep them there. In most states, restaurants are allowed to pay waiters far less than the minimum wage. The federal rate for service in the U.S. is just $2.13 an hour, and in 19 states, that's what servers make. Each state, though, has leeway to set a higher wage for the servers. 24 states have voluntarily raised servers' minimum wage above $22.13 an hour, and 7 states have gone as far as requiring servers to be paid the same minimum wage as everyone else, which is true in some states.
Yeah.
Like I know that some restaurants in some states, you make $10 an hour.
Yeah.
And that's what I think minimum wage is here in Florida. If it's not now, then that's what it will be next year.
Yeah.
Do you think that it pushes waiters into poverty? Like if you...
Well, yeah, because the money comes and goes so easily that most servers don't even they'll get this money today, they go and spend it because they know that the next time they get come into work, they're gonna get this money again.
Yep, it helps.
So
It helps keep them there.
I could kind of agree with that, but I mean that's why you manage your money right, like.
Yeah, but I know a lot of people that don't manage their money right. Even like people that work like in regular jobs, it's really difficult because they know themselves that, just like you said, they're gonna make that same amount of money next week. Even if they don't go to work to do shit, they're gonna go to work and make those hours, meaning that they're gonna make that money. So even if these servers don't go to work and make that tip that they should work really hard for, they're still gonna make that $2.13 an hour, or in some states $10 an hour. So. Number 2, servers make less per hour than they used to. The tipped minimum wage, which is the amount servers make per hour, was established in 1966 by the Federal Fair Labor Standards Act. Prior to 1966, there was no standard rate for servers and others worked who earned tips, like hotel workers. The FLSA established the tipped minimum wage had to be no less than 50% of the regular minimum wage, which sucks. Right now, that would have been like, well, you're making $4.
$4.75.
That way, when the regular minimum wage increased, the tip minimum wage would automatically increase along with it, which is really good. The current federal tip minimum wage for service, like I said earlier, is $2.13 an hour. It's exactly the same as it was in 1991, when the regular minimum wage was $4.25. Now, do you think that you would go to another state and be a server? Or what do you think you would do?
No, I don't think so. This is my first and only serving job.
Oh. Do you think you were to do this after?
No.
After learning about the IRS rule or law, What do you think that is gonna happen to you in the next 5 years, or people that have been
Well,
waitressing?
I'm seeing it now. A lot of veterans that have been in the company for years are quitting because they're not making the money that they need to. Like people have been serving for over 10 years, have seen it go downhill, and the money's not there anymore. Like,
That sucks. Let's see. Oh, another one. And people tip less now than they used to, too.
I agree.
Why do you think that?
Because the money used to be good back then. We weren't like in such a depression like we are now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know people who sometimes tip the very minimum.
But I'm sorry, if you don't have money to tip, you shouldn't come out to eat.
It depends what restaurant you go to. Because if you go to Denny's, even though at Denny's, depending on how good the waitress is, I'll tip her more than she's supposed to get.
Yeah, I mean they
And it's
work
usually
really
a girl.
hard. You know, they work really hard.
Yeah. Have you heard that women get paid less than men?
Of course, I
When-
think it's like a dime to the dollar or something like that.
Which sucks because I'm just as workable as you are. I could probably work better than you.
Yeah, I
Okay,
agree with that.
mofo.
I mean, I'm not on board with that either.
Shoot. No, I'm serious. Now, let's see. When people tip, they discriminate. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah,
Do you guys think that when people tip, they discriminate?
I agree with that because I don't know if it's the location of my restaurant, but we get a lot of we get like a really urban crowd, and for some reason they will tip my friend Daniela, who's from a Haitian background. They'll tip her, but not me.
They won't tip you at all?
Well, I mean, barely. Like it doesn't even like. I mean, the money's gonna go to tip out, so
Right.
it's like it's pretty much like I'm not getting tipped.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, just like
Does
not
that
for
happen a
nothing-
lot to you?
Yeah, not for nothing, but a Spanish speaking table will tip me more than like an American or an African American person.
And you've noticed that yourself.
Yeah, like that's why I'm happy when I see a Hispanic table because I know I can relate to them, they can relate to me, and
You know what's really weird? In Aventura, because you work in Aventura at the Aventura location.
mhm.
Okay. It's really weird how I've noticed that people from different parts of Miami will go to another part and get discriminated on.
Yeah,
Like, you know that you're definitely not from Aventura. You could be, but you're not from Aventura. When you go over there, do you blend in with the Spanish people over there, or can they tell that you're more from Miami? The Spanish people themselves.
Yeah, like well, in Aventura there's a lot of tourists, and they always ask me like, "Oh, where are you from?" I don't know where I sound like I'm from, but yeah, they ask me. They don't think I'm from Miami.
And where do you? Oh, they ask you like what part of Florida are you from, or what's your nationality?
What's my nationality? And if I was born there, and I tell them no, I was born here, and they're like, "Oh, really? You don't seem it."
Really?
Yeah.
And you're from Nicaragua, right?
Yeah.
You know, the other day I was here at school, and a guy, Nick Hernandez, he's new on the Dirty Laundry show. You guys catch him on Dirty Laundry every Friday at 8 o'clock. Nick Hernandez, he's amazing. He's so funny. One day, well, I guess that he was born and raised in Broward, like that Pembroke Pines side of Florida. And you know what he told me in Barbie one day? Barbie's also from Dirty Laundry. Catch on Dirty Laundry at 8 o'clock on Fridays. She's amazing as well, but she's like me. She's from Miami, and I guess that he's from Pembroke Pines. And me and her were talking. We were having a conversation with him, and he was just like, "I love how Miami you guys talk." And it's so ironic that was probably a month or two ago that now he has that So Miami on Dirty Laundry. It's so funny. He has that show, It's So Miami. So I'm definitely tuning into that It's So Miami on Fridays on Dirty Laundry, and it's gonna be amazing because he just talks about how Miami we are. Do you think that Miami's different from other like cities or like certain parts of Miami?
Yeah, but like Miami has like its own
Pero,
natural
like-
slang. Like, yeah, you could
No.
definitely tell.
Yeah, I think that like when I'm at work, I'm always saying "I."
Me too. Or the girls will say something like they nigga this or nigga that,
Mhm.
and they're like, "You're a female, first of all. Why are you speaking in that manner?"
You know, sometimes because sometimes I say dog. Like if I'm mad at you, I'm gonna say dog. Is this something that happened, right? And I know rockers who say dog. I know hillbillies from freaking traders in Pinecrest and stuff like that, they say dog. But I don't really say it that often. My boyfriend, whenever I get mad at him, we're arguing, and then he'll just be like, well, why you gotta say dog? I'm arguing with you, and I grew up in the same community that you did, and you say it all the time. What's the difference? Like, you can't. No. Damn it.
Miami people have our own traits.
Yeah, we do. We're so Miami guys. Well, up next we have another song. It's not the song of the day. The song of the day was only Kendrick Lamar, I Love Myself, and it was Au Natural by Sweetback. Up next we have another song. Stay tuned. Just go. And that was it. That song is Jason Mraz. I'm gonna go ahead and let Abel do that song because he loves that song.
I do. It has a funky, cool groove to it. It's Make It Mine by Jason Mraz. Very inspirational and motivational. Just wake up and make it yours.
Oh, I like that. I love that. Well, this was Young at War, November 24th, 2014. If you guys have any questions or concerns, any tips, go ahead and holla at me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Holla at your girl.
Holla at your girl. That's Young at War on YouTube. It's 24/7 Miami / Young at War. On Instagram, it will be Maxi_y'all, which is YAW. And you can holla at Abel on Instagram as well. What's your Instagram name?
Bulletproof Abel.
Bulletproof Abel, because he's so bulletproof. Thank you for tuning in, guys. Have a great day.